This just says entertainment.
That's what professional wrestling is.
Stop it.
They're like, you're talking that WWE stuff, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we'll have to chat about that. And we're live. And we're both here at the same time. Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons. Sorry to be a little late. I just finished a hour-plus chat with Mike Sempervive from Wrestling Observer. Because he and I, God bless him, we are so... he gets cut off a lot on Wrestling Observer Live when he's with Brian Alvarez.
Yeah.
And I call him the voice of reason for that fine program. So I got to let him vent. What's up? Oh, you need a coaster. That's right. So I got to let him vent. So we talked. We talked like almost 25 minutes just on Texas and OU to the SEC.
You and everyone else.
Because he wanted to talk about it.
It's the biggest news story going in pretty much athletics.
Yes.
Just because college athletics for our fans across the pond, it's a big deal here.
Yes,
it
is.
Yeah.
It is. And as you might expect, this shift could signify the start of a major shift all over college athletics.
Well, I mean, I talked about it on the Wagner Wire this past Sunday.
Sundays, 9 a.m. to noon, Central, on the Horn.
And basically, we kind of said that this was already kind of foreseen. Like, we already knew that this was going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
It just probably didn't believe it was going to happen like this right after a pandemic. You know, had there not been a pandemic, maybe it would have been a little more flowy. But since you had that harsh cutoff and then the restart, and then they're probably thinking about this move like years ago.
Yes.
But what is it? They still got like a 10-year contract with ESPN for the Longhorn Network?
For Longhorn Network. Now, I heard, in fact, it was our former co-host. I say former. He's on hiatus. He's still on hiatus. Jeff Howe. Also from Horns 24/7 and from Light the Tower, weekdays on the Horn.
So you're saying we have a stable now?
Yes, of course. Because him and Dustin, I think Mike Sempervive wants to join us.
And Eddie?
And Eddie, that's right. And where is it? And
Eddie Cross.
Yes.
You get Rodney on here.
Rodney would definitely come on here. Rodney Rodriguez from Revved Up ATX.
Yeah.
So Jeff mentioned the possibility. So right now, Texas and Oklahoma cannot move until 2025, as it stands now, unless there's a big buyout. Well, you know what? All that money that ESPN still owes the University of Texas for the Longhorn Network.
Yeah, it's hundreds of millions.
Well, it's about 160.
That's millions.
So, yeah, hundreds of millions. So, he put up the theory that maybe ESPN talks Texas into using that money to pay for the buyout, to where Texas could start playing the SEC
even sooner. No pun intended.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking I'm going to put it over under at 2023.
Wow.
I will say, in fact, I think next season, the 2022 season, might be the 2022-23 academic year might be the last year for Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC or in the Big 12.
It could. I could see it playing out that way.
Yeah.
The one theory I had is that they'll just take – everybody says it'll dissolve. I was like, they'll just take the Longhorn Network and make that SEC 2. And then you would have 2 SEC networks for all the coverage because there's going to be, 16 teams?
That's a possibility.
And the most football-crazy conference – I mean, that's the for sure money maker right there. So it's like, yeah, you have 2 networks show 2 games, and then obviously they're going to have a national TV contract with somebody to show their stuff. Oh, CBS.
Yeah.
So you would have a CBS.
Well, no, the CBS deal runs out.
For the SEC?
Yeah, it runs out this year.
Okay, because
I think ESPN gets it fully starting next year.
Wow, because I mean, CBS has been the traditional home of SEC football for as long as I can remember.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not an old man, but I mean, I've been watching college sports for a while.
Yeah, but you're right. I think that's that is distinct possibility. I could see that happening. You have ESPN and ESPN2. Why not SEC Network and SEC Network 2.
Exactly. And one of the things I said on Wags' show was just like, hey, this is a power play from the SEC essentially to kind of circumvent any power that the NCAA is going to still hold. I think they would become more powerful than the NCAA because they would have all the big money players.
I think as far as the NCAA, I think as far as football goes, the big, whether it's SEC, Big Ten, what have you, I think they will break away.
Oh,
they will no longer be under the auspices, even whatever power they have.
See, you get it. That's how I see it too. It's like, no, this is a power move. They're going to be like, hey, we can govern ourselves, and we have our own TV deal. We don't even need the NCAA.
Right. I mean, NCAA is becoming weaker and weaker as it stands now. I could see the NCAA sticking around for the smaller schools and maybe even some of the other sports. But then, even then, I'm thinking maybe basketball goes away too. So maybe NCAA is left with like the FBS division, Division 2, Division 3.
Yeah.
Or FCS, excuse me. And then everybody else goes under their own whatever you want to call it.
And that's the way it is. That's the way it is in European soccer. Like all the other teams in the FA are governed by the FA, but if you're in the Premier League, you're just going by the Premier League standards because they have their own TV deal.
Right.
And that's how I foresee it happening. But we still got time.
Yeah, it's still fresh and new, and still trying to work everything out. So
you're talking about WWE or the SEC thing?
The SEC
I'm just
thing.
playing.
Yeah, WWE is not fresh or new. All right, so
somewhat new, not fresh.
All right, so I know Mike and I talked at least 30 to 35 minutes worth of wrestling. So
it's
I think you and I are going to do a quick hit, and then we will start with the rest of the show. By the way,
I watch pretty much everything.
If you listen to us tomorrow on the Horn, we're taking over Fight Night's hour. So it's 2 hours of Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Fight Night's taking a vacation.
Take over.
Yes, and you'll hear that sounder tomorrow night on the Horn. Our usual, NWO takeover type thing. We're
gonna have to parody the NXT takeover sometime and just kind of.
Except they don't take over. That's just what they call their specials.
Exactly.
They don't take anything over.
No, but like when they say NXT takeover, we should just dub SGTW and then like take over.
Well, I tried once to get Neil Pruitt to give me something, but apparently he is not allowed to do things.
I know. I know he can't do that.
So shout out Neil.
Isn't that crazy?
I think he's back to doing the Secrets of WCW podcast again.
That's cool.
So we'll try to get him on, have him promote that. He's a good guy to talk to. So
there's a lot of good people in this industry that I still want to talk to. It's crazy.
There's a lot of good people that do podcasts and everything. So we're going to do a short segment here, and then do our normal 3 segments, and should be fun. So here we go. We're going to do. Oh, I didn't print out. Did I print out a thing for you?
Oh, it's okay, man. I can read yours.
Okay, well, there we go.
I'm just going to get some paper just to scribble on, just in case.
I think I did. Actually, I think I did.
You want me to go check?
Check my printer, if you would, please. Yeah, don't go leave the headphones here. Get a couple snorts of tequila, and he's already. Snorts. Check the printer. I may have printed it.
This patch looks so cool.
Which patch?
This Cancun one with the luchador?
It's just a sticker.
It's cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, the Space Jam sticker?
One of my coworkers, the Space Jam sticker came from McDonald's, but one of my coworkers was in Mexico, and so he brought me back the Lucha sticker. So there you go. All right. So if you're ready, let's make a little radio magic. You got to mute it because can't hear the thing. So here you go. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick and Justin the Smash Simmons joins me.
Stu, still my favorite rejoin, man. I still can't believe you got to meet the Ace and his great hair.
I know.
And he gave you the thing in English.
That's right. He did. He was wonderful. Speaking of the Ace, he had an impromptu title match this past weekend at New Japan's Wrestle Grand Slam there in the Tokyo Dome. He had to, unfortunately, replace Kota Ibushi, who is suffering from aspirational pneumonia.
Yeah.
As it has come out, it had nothing to do with COVID vaccine shots.
Yeah,
he just inhaled something that has made him sick. He may be down for another 6 weeks.
Dang,
so,
man.
you feel bad for him because they were relying on him for a lot of these events.
This was supposed to be his time to kind of be like the top draw because they're placing him in that position, and kind of reminds me of something similar like Dolph Ziggler, where he was supposed to get his run, then the concussion. In this case, you don't know how good he's going to feel. Like the prognosis, maybe a few more weeks, but it's ammonia, so it can flare up even worse.
It can.
It can get better quickly, but we're just hoping for the best.
Yeah. Whatever it is, we want him to get healthy, have a full recovery so that we can see him in the ring. But yeah, it was Hiroshi Tanahashi challenging Shingo Takagi for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Takagi won, and now we get Evil challenging him at, I think it's maybe their next Wrestle Grand Slam at the MetLife Dome, and I forget what city in Japan that it's in. But
oh wow!
But they're going back to Evil, which I'm not sure. And you just heard Mike Sempervive and I talk about it. I'm not sure anybody's looking forward to that because I don't think too many people are fans of Evil's first run.
Exactly where I was getting at. So I'm like, oh, so they're going full circle with this. I still kind of feel, what was it? The Stardust Genius? Is that what I'm thinking? What's his name?
Gedo? Oh, Naito.
Yes, like
Naito.
he never got like his full run because of COVID and stuff.
Right.
So like he was finishing telling the story that he never really got a chance to finish, and then they moved on to this story where it was like, oh, him and Evil, Los Ingobernables, and they were like real tight, and then there was the backlash, but then I never saw the return. Like that kind of just fell from the side. Evil had his quick run, lost the title, and then like that storyline just never came back.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's been some perplexing booking decisions by New Japan, and you just don't know. Like in fact, it's Sonata and Naito have been trading back and forth the heavyweight tag titles with Zack Sabre Jr. and Tai Chi.
Yeah.
So, where's GOD at this point? Where's some of the other tag teams? It almost feels like they almost don't have enough people to fill out the card, quite frankly. And it's
strange.
And of course, Japan under another state of emergency. We've seen we've seen their state of emergency play out with the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
No fans in the crowds or no fans in the stands for the different Olympic events. So you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in the next month, much less 2 months, 3 months down the road. So, hoping for the best for New Japan, but they are definitely hurting. They're definitely hurting.
But that is why Tanahashi is still the ace, because you can put him in a position like this where he got to headline Tokyo Dome, because that's where it was. So he got to headline the Tokyo Dome, as he should.
He sure did,
because he is their Ric Flair. He is their Hulk Hogan.
He is,
but predominantly Ric Flair, because he can work with anybody.
Right. Game Changer Wrestling.
Woo! We're gonna talk about that.
I was just going to mention it because this has made a lot of news. Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder, defeating Nick Gage.
Now, did you see it?
For the GCW World Title. I saw bits and pieces of it, and it's everything you would expect from a GCW main event for the World Title involving Nick effing Gage.
Now, this is the deathmatch style is not my cup of tea.
Right.
So obviously I try to get rid of those notions going into watching this. And, I have to admit, the one thing I really detest about deathmatch wrestling is just like the in-between of getting from one spot to the next. And I understand, you just went through a whole bunch of light bulb fixtures and stuff. Yeah. It's going to take you a little while to get psyched up for the next punishing blow that you're going to do. But that was really my only complaint from the match, is just that there's so much time in between.
Yes.
getting to that one spot to the next spot that they're just lying around for most of the time. And I get it. That really does interest some of the crowd, but for me, wasn't necessarily my thing. But all the stuff surrounding the match, that's what told the story here.
That's right. Absolutely. And by the way, Nick Gage set to appear. If you're listening to us on the horn, you've probably already seen it. Set to appear this week on AEW Dynamite, Fight for the Fallen, as the second of the 5 labors of Jericho.
Ha! Wow.
So Chris Jericho taking on the Painmaker persona to face Nick Gage in a no DQ match. And Nick has already, he's been doing these promos sporting the pizza cutter.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to believe we're going to see some blood.
I mean, what, Cardona got pizza cuttered like on every 4 facings, right?
Yes.
So he got every side of the ring. He got a pizza cutter to the forehead. It was brutal. How did you feel about, this whole, I guess, mainstream wrestler from WWE who is now in AEW coming in and kind of shaking up the status quo of what is GCW?
It's
taking out their top guy.
Yeah. I wonder about that too, because, their fans, the GCW fans, are those are like
super passionate,
super like seriously hardcore, loyal, and especially Nick Gage fans.
Oh, they're
so you got Matt Cardona, who, all intents and purposes, a pretty boy.
Yeah,
coming in and defeating their guy.
Yeah.
This was like John Cena going after the ECW title against Rob Van Dam.
Basically.
Even though it was a WWE ECW. But still.
But it would be Rob Van Dam being the defending champion of that title on his home turf against the pretty boy establishment guy. My one question is like, man, like, did you see, not my question, but like, did you see the faces of dejection, the look of the crowd after the pin? Like, I knew they threw all this stuff.
Yeah, but I heard about it.
But if you stuck around, like some of the people, a lot of those wrestling fans will tape their own things, and they were talking to the fans, and it's just like the sadness of the MDK. Like, wow, they took it to heart.
They did.
And not only that, that was probably the most heat I've ever seen for a pro wrestler in the last 25 years. And I get it, it's GCW, so you can get away with a few more things, but, I mean, they pelted him.
Yeah.
With everything you could throw except for, the chairs?
Yeah, just about.
How did he walk out of there in one piece? Because he goes through the crowd, too. He had to go back through the crowd to get to the locker room. I really thought he was going to get seriously hurt.
I did, too. All right, we're going to take a quick time out. We've got another hour coming up next, and we got to get into WWE. And there's a couple of overarching things I want to get to. We'll get to that at the top of the hour right after this break. You're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Yeah, that was nuts.
Sorry, I thought you had more time for that.
No, that's
because
okay.
I was like, no, that was actually way more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and like I said, I only saw a little bit like highlights and stuff, and I saw some of the fan reactions. And again, Again, I have limited experience with GCW. The one card they did here in Austin.
I was going to say, you see more of it live than I have.
And very up close. And it was in Austin. And that is there is a loyalty there that most wrestling companies would kill for.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
I mean, they invested everything, and especially everything that Nick Gage does. And I've talked to Nick. He's a good dude.
Have you seen the Dark Side of the Ring episode on him?
But, I mean, that was just – it was kind of like what we were talking about last week with the two fans that were standing behind us at AEW.
But it was the whole crowd that.
Except it was the whole crowd. And it was just – it was nuts.
But just the amount of trash that was thrown at him after he won. And
don't
get me wrong, he played up to it as a good heel should, bleeding through all his clothes and stuff. But I'm like, man, what does this do for Matt Cardona, though, as a pro wrestler? Like, yes, we're giving him his props right now, but is this going to help his career trajectory in AEW? That's my question.
Well, he's not in AEW. Right now, he's in Impact.
Okay. I completely forgot about that. Thank you for telling me.
As crazy as it sounds, I could see this. I don't know. I don't. It won't hurt him.
But
I
I'm
don't
not-
think it will.
But I'm not like angling to see Matt Cardona a deathmatch wrestler. Like it's not like
No,
something that I'm.
I don't. Yeah, I don't want to see him as a deathmatch wrestler.
But like this one-off was really awesome.
Right, and I think as long as he does just like once in a blue moon, why not? You know, that's one more thing he can do. That's one more thing he can add to his resume when he goes to a promoter. You know, he can say, "Yeah, I can do this as well."
That's true.
Of course, I saw the
tweet.
the post match press conference. Him and Josh Chernoff from Fight TV, and I'm looking at that bloody T-shirt, and all I can think of is, "Good Lord, Chelsea Green's going to have his."
Oh,
you know what?
You didn't see
She's
your
gonna
tweet?
do laundry.
You didn't see your tweet?
Uh-uh.
She was like, "Oh, the good doctor is in," and like she like something like that, and she was like, she showed all the photos of like his back where it was all
Yeah.
scarred and how she kind of like patched him up and stuff, and I was like, "Oh yeah, man. See, I mean, it was a great reaction and everything. I'm just not sure if it's worth it career wise,
I don't know.
especially at that level, because it's like I know it's not beneath him, obviously, and it was
No.
and it's good for pro wrestling as a whole to have this type of interaction because it's like, oh, it's really melding all the fans together, those that love death matches, those
Right.
that don't. And everybody has their own thought on this, but I'm just like, what does it do for him career-wise, though?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not worth taking a beating if you're not going to make any more money off of it.
That's true. That's very true. Like I said, I think it's simply something that he can, you know, pack in his CV, for lack of a better term, and say, you know, so when he's, you know, when a promoter comes to him and says, "Hey, you know, can you do it?" And no, he doesn't need to be doing this all the time. Not, in fact, I would dare say, maybe no more than maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Because in all honesty, it wasn't like the best death match I've ever seen.
No,
like I said, there
of
was a lot of in between getting to one
Right.
spot because I know that's not his style. He's not going to want to take all of this,
Right.
but I don't want to see him take all that.
I mean, he's going to have to do it again because,
Gotta
in all
defend it.
likelihood, he'll you know, give the belt back to Nick.
Wow.
Or I don't know. Maybe they keep it on him for a little bit. I don't know.
You think we start seeing Game Changer wrestling on Impact?
At this point, I wouldn't. We're gonna see Nick Gage on AEW. Why not? That forbidden door has been blown wide open. You know, I fully expect to see Hammerstone walk through somewhere, and you know, he just won the battle riot in Major League Wrestling.
Now, do you just want to touch on that now, or did you want to save it for the back
No,
end?
no, we
Okay.
can touch on it now.
Because I was all like, yeah, I'm a big Hammerstone fan, so
I love Alex. I mean, he's a good kid. Has an awesome look.
he worked hard to get that look.
He did. Battle Riot is a fun
Mm-hmm.
Royal Rumble style match. I was lucky enough to see number 2 live in New York during WrestleMania weekend.
That's awesome.
And that was when it was MJF was number 1 and number 2 was Dan Severn.
Crazy.
Oh my God, that was the best reaction. You know, you got MJF who does what he does, and here comes arguably one of the toughest men, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, former UFC World Heavyweight Champion, UFC Hall of Famer. I mean, this man, he can tie you 14 ways to Sunday without blinking.
He'll legit beat you up.
Yes.
Yeah, like he can
Yes.
wrestle you, but he can legit beat you up as well.
Oh,
I mean, like that's the
And
whole-
he's a great guy. I got to talk to him after the show, and just a very, very wonderful man. I mean,
yeah, he's just Dan Severn. He's
Yeah.
just that. He's just
but
who he is.
He is a badass.
Yeah,
you know.
it's like you can't mess with him.
So yeah, that Battle Riot format is so much fun to watch. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It's on their YouTube page. It is just a lot of fun. You get surprises just like you do. Blue Meanie was in it. I think he's been in every one of them.
Yeah,
I know we had. I'm trying to think of who else we saw. Of course, Ross and Marshall Von Erich. You had the guys from what's the bad group?
oh, Contra Unit.
Contra Unit. Yes. You had the guys from Contra Unit. You had the guys from Azteca Underground. I think they call him King Muertes now, the former Mil Muertes.
Yeah, man, it's so hard to keep track of all this
It
sometimes,
is.
though. But I'm surprised we knew that much.
Yeah. So good stuff. And I put on here we need thoughts, prayers to B. Brian Blair, the head of the Cauliflower Alley Club, he and his family, his son Brett, and PW Insider Mike Johnson reported that he was actually murdered.
Yeah,
Age of 29, and so to lose a son like that, my heart just wrenches. Brian Blair is a kind of man as I've ever met, and just to understand what he's going through right now, and the family there, you just can't imagine. So, all of our thoughts and prayers to he and his family, and if indeed it was a murder, hope that the person responsible can be brought to justice. So,
I mean, I know it's going to take a long time, and that pain never really is going to go away.
No.
I just hope that they can find some peace and hopefully some answers.
Yeah,
because I know it's the closure that is super important at this point now. Because it's like obviously what has happened, and they're going to have to try to work through that. But I know closure would help so immensely for situations like this. And
it would. NXT, we got Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. So
I like her though.
Oh, I like Raquel. I think she's fantastic. And Dakota Kai does a great job in her role.
But I think Raquel could really be poised to break out if given the right.
And there was a lot of talk that she was going to move to SmackDown to bolster that women's division, that women's roster. So
I can see her squashing Carmella.
We shall see. So, all right, let's do the first segment of hour number 2. Yeah, you got to mute you. We'll be right back, but just stand by. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons back for a second hour in our normal time slot. But hey, if you're just now joining us, you missed a great first hour with my conversation with Mike Sempervive, and then talking a little bit of the tidbits of the latest in wrestling. Justin, I had this thought while I was watching Raw Monday night. And I want to ask you, and I want you to take your WWE apologist hat off.
It's hard
so
to do.
I know it's hard to do, but I want to get a straight answer. I want to get or not straight. I want your honest, 100%. And this is something that Mike and I touched on. So the WWE audience, their TV audience, the people that tune in to Raw and SmackDown. I'm not necessarily going to count NXT because NXT,
different audience.
It's a little bit different. They're a little bit closer to what we see with other wrestling companies. We have said many times. You've said it a lot. I've said it a lot. WWE stopped being a wrestling company. They are entertainment company, content provider, whatever. So, in your honest opinion, who is the WWE TV audience, the ones that watch Raw and SmackDown, and unlike me, don't lose their hair over the fact that you've got a match being, determined by a doll, mimicking a, Eva Marie.
True.
So I get it's you and I know. Oh, we had Dakota Kai turn on.
Ooh, that's big.
That is a big one. Okay. Anyway, I gotta cut that out of the radio show. But we know that audience is different from the ones that watch AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, Major League Wrestling, NWA. If you were to pick a show on TV that is currently on television, what show audience would you closely compare it to?
I mean, that's a really tough question because If I could answer that, I think the WWE would be in much better status with wrestling fans in general,
Right.
because I don't think they even really know what their audience is, because they've been trying to chase a demographic number that they haven't been successful at. So right now, I hate to say this, but I think the audience is people like yourself and like myself, the ones that have been watching it for so long, that expect some cohesion. But at the same token, there always comes a time where the WWE will have a hard reset. And WCW did this too.
Yes.
They go
Well,
and
they
kind of,
tried. It failed miserably.
they did it twice. They
Yes.
bought Hogan,
Yeah.
and they tried to do the Hogan thing, like make
Yes.
it early WWF, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then they had the reset where they made the NWO. So that means that the fans changed, because it wasn't no longer what I guess would have been like our grandfathers or
Right.
our dads like wrestling. It's completely different at that point in time. It's more cartoonish, and then it got all realistic all of a sudden,
Right.
because it went from real to cartoonish with people having jobs,
Right.
and then it went to that to like, oh, the stuff happening backstage is starting to leak on to what's happening in front of the camera. So now this Jerry Springer stuff is all cool because it's all realistic, and we don't know what's real and what's fake. And now we're kind of, since we've seen all that, I don't know how we're supposed to really look at it anymore.
You see, and that's kind of the thing. Like I said, Mike and I talked about during the first segment about it's not like they're trying to be a comedy. They're also trying to be a drama. They're also trying to be adventure. They're also trying to be a soap opera. They're also trying to be science fiction.
Yes.
And the problem is you can't do all of that in one show.
But see, I disagree with that, though, because the WWF, as it was known when Vince, took it over,
Right.
that has been his whole game plan the entire time. It's always been a variety show. Think about back to the first WrestleMania, when you have like the dancers and Liberace, and you have Cyndi Lauper,
Right.
and you have Mr. T. Like, it wasn't a wrestling show. Like, no hardcore NWA fan was like, oh my god, I gotta see Mr. T wrestle in the main event. I have to pay money for that.
Well,
It was a different audience. They were trying to make it popular to everybody, and they somewhat succeeded for a short period of time. And then eventually, all that goody two-shoeness was no longer working for them.
well, see, and that's okay. And to a small extent, I agree. My thing is, like, I'll take Major League Wrestling.
Yeah.
Even in their promos, they talk about how they have the different styles of wrestling,
Yeah.
whether lucha libre, strong style, catch as catch, whatever, which, okay, I get that. That's cool. WWE, or back in the WWF days, yes, they had all that entertainment stuff around, but it was still, it at least seemingly still centered around wrestling to an extent,
Maybe.
much more than it does today.
See, and again, I don't mean to be like, confrontational, but I think I had to disagree with that in the sense where it was all like back when the WWF was moving on from the new generation to the Attitude Era.
Right.
At that point in time, I think you could argue that the weekly television was more entertaining to watch than any pay-per-view. And the reason is because of the storylines, because the in-ring product really wasn't that good at that time.
No, it wasn't. And I think I see what you're saying, and I think maybe I misspoke. I'm not necessarily saying the in-ring action. I think it's more of, and I don't know how to, I'm trying to figure out how to put it, but it's not, they decided to take the in-ring action and simply put some sparkle to it.
Well, yeah, there's
I
always...
guess maybe that's it. Seems like now the sparkle overshadows what happens in the ring, because you talk about Monday Night Raw.
Mm-hmm.
The things they're doing, like with the Lily stuff and all that good stuff, it takes away from the fact that there were a couple good matches.
Oh, well, yeah, but I mean, that always happens to me. And that's not even like the apologetic stuff for me. I just feel that like every wrestling show is going to have some good stuff on it that's going to hit, and some stuff that's just like, okay, that's corny even for wrestling, but I
Right.
get it. And then you're going to have some bangers in there, and you're going to have some throwaway matches. I feel like every card is comprised like that. Now I understand where the WWE is lazy and they give us a lot of rematches. Maybe they're working on a short staff, or they're still trying to figure things out. And obviously things get put on the fly, and that can make for a less than stellar product.
Right.
Understandably. And a lot of those other wrestling fans have spoken with their wallet and on social media, right? And they say
Yeah.
that they're no longer going to watch the product. I don't know how true that is, but obviously there are alternatives out there available.
Right. I put those people in the same ones that vowed never to watch the NFL because of the whole kneeling thing.
They're the Howard Stern types. Like they
Right.
say they're never going to watch or listen, but
Which
they
it
always
was
do.
so it'd be so funny because I'd have a friend come up to me, "Why do you watch the NFL?" All that's I said, "Well, I work in sports radio. I kind of have to." You know, it's kind of the same thing with us.
Yeah.
We watch everything, and you and I are different. Yes, we're wrestling fans, but you and I watch it because we talk about it every week on the radio, on the horn.
Well, not only that, but I mean, there's been coaches I'm sure that you've talked to. I might not agree with everything that they have to say politically or
Oh, God,
personally,
yes.
you know, because there's a lot of differences and all that stuff. But, you know, do I respect? It's like Chris Jericho. It's like, do I respect them for what they do and what they've achieved during their career? Of course.
Yeah,
because you
absolutely.
can't take that away. Now, just because we have different thoughts and I might not agree with something, that's just what it is. But you
Exactly.
know, but you look at the stuff in their job and if they can perform well, that's one thing, you know, and I understand that.
We'll get to some of the gripes about Raw in the next segment. I want to hit on SmackDown. SmackDown was interesting. Let's start with the main event, the what was understood as the main event program. You had John Cena comes back,
The Summer of Cena.
the Summer of Cena, and he says he is going to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title because Roman Reigns just needs to be shut up.
And everybody was waiting for the promo showdown.
And yeah, we were all waiting for Roman to say, accept the challenge, vowing that he would make John Cena acknowledge him. Well, we get to the end of the show. Roman comes out and says no.
Mm-hmm. I was
And
actually
like,
okay with that.
What?
You weren't okay with that?
Well, I mean, because you figure, okay, they're going to get there somehow.
Now, this came before Monday night. So
Right.
So this was done first.
This was Friday night.
So, and in this case, I felt like, oh, that's perfect. How heelish is like, oh, you don't want to take on John Cena, the face that ran the place? That's so good.
Right. I
I'm
get
like,
you.
I'm in.
Leader of C Nation, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting that so Roman says, no, you're not worth my time. You're just looking to be relevant. And then here comes Finn Balor, who says, all right, you don't want to face John Cena? How about facing me?
And I was down.
I was like, oh, yes.
Happy belated
For the
40th.
love of God, let's have Roman versus Finn.
Because, I mean, that should be a fun match to watch.
As much as I've loved Finn Balor on NXT, he and I hate to say it, he fits on SmackDown.
Well, he's always deserved a big, huge, grand
Right.
stage. And
Right.
and don't get me wrong, like we've seen his work in New Japan, all over the Indies, obviously NXT, but the day that he won the Universal Championship, that was the day where it was like, no, this is where he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be the big star
Right.
on this grand stage where everybody can watch him. Now, like, could he go to AEW and still do that? Yeah, but I still think like he deserves like this already pre-made, like, hey, this is the place that's been running for 50 years and you should be the
Right.
face of it at least once because you are that good.
Right. So we'll see. Now, my guess is it won't be at SummerSlam. This will be on SmackDown. I don't know if maybe this week or next. We'll still have Cena versus Reigns at SummerSlam because John Cena's not taking time out of his movie schedule if he just wants to do a random match on SmackDown. No. This is going to happen at SummerSlam. We get that.
I will say, though, that John Cena is one of those guys that legitimately, like The Rock, like legitimately loves the business as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Grew
Absolutely.
up around it. So it's like, yeah, I could see him coming back, like Chris Jericho time and time again.
Yeah.
But only in between the projects.
Absolutely. Did you see the segment where they had the matches at the Rolling Loud Festival in Miami?
I did not see that.
That was interesting.
What was going on there, though?
It was all right, and forgive me, I am way behind on music. You know, I'm an '80s guy, but apparently in Miami they were doing this something called the Rolling Loud Festival.
Okay.
And I think it's more of an urban, hip hop, that type of crowd.
Gotcha.
And they decided, the festival and WWE came to an agreement, and so WWE set up a ring on the stage there and had 2 matches. They had Angelo Dawkins from Street Profits taking on Chad Gable.
Makes total sense.
Short, sweet. Dawkins goes over.
Probably look good too, because those
Look
guys
good,
can
of
work.
course. It's Street Profits. And then Bianca Belair.
Oh, hell yeah.
Defending the SmackDown Women's title against Carmella for the
perfect.
43rd time. But again, it's kind of one of those things where, okay, you're at a crowd at a festival. I would venture to bet 90% of them are not wrestling fans.
That is true.
Or even WWE fans.
Which is,
and this is why those 2 matches fit, and the way they did them fit. Show a couple highlights, hit a few high spots. The good guy goes over, and there you go.
well, see, I was going to say, but that makes perfect sense, though,
Yeah.
because they are trying, and that's something that I always will give credit to WWE, is that they're always looking for their next audience.
Absolutely.
It's not always successful, obviously, but we haven't seen them try to do things like this. This would be more of a WCW move when they would go to spring break and
Right.
stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I love
Absolutely.
that. As a wrestling
Hey.
fan, I thought that was so cool, because it's like, hey, you're getting out of the arena, you're trying to go to different places, and you just never know when that next wrestling fan will be born. Because it only takes one moment where you're like, oh, wow, I got to see this
Yeah.
again. Because once you're hooked, you're hooked.
Yes.
Because it's all
Absolutely.
happened to
We've
us
seen-
at one time or another.
Yeah. You think about back in the day, the Hog Wild pay-per-views for WCW, like you were talking about. But yeah, it was. I
Ash
think
at
it
the
was
beach,
fun.
when
It was
they were
fun.
at the beach.
Yeah, it was fun. That was fine. Toni Storm made her debut on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Got the win. You love to see that.
Well, you talked about SmackDown needed to bolster their women's
They did,
roster, and
and
she's a great hand to have.
She is. She's fantastic. You know, all in all, and that's the funny thing. Look, I do get bored a little bit with WWTV because sometimes it's a little paint by numbers. But as shows go, SmackDown still puts on. There, it's more logical. The booking is not near as scattershot.
Yeah, there's definitely more streamlinedness to
Yeah.
it. Like, you have an idea of what they're trying to get at on SmackDown, and is it 3 hours or 2?
No,
3?
it's only 2 hours.
It's only 2, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
So
yeah,
that helps.
That
That
helps
helps
a lot.
tremendously.
But I'm like, that really, like, since there hasn't been anything to watch on Friday nights recently, because, you know, NBA basketball, the playoffs
That's
are
right.
done. And, you know, you catch the Olympics, but I'm looking for the live stuff. I don't want to see stuff on replay. So I've been watching SmackDown.
Yeah.
And I've been pleasantly surprised with a lot of the stuff that happens on SmackDown, where I'm like, hey, that's actually pretty good.
It is. You know, there was a couple other things you had. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to think of what else we saw on SmackDown. Besides that, it was.
I mean, that really was the big takeaway, though.
Those were the big ones. You know,
because getting a chance to see Prince Devitt, essentially, or Finn
Yes.
Balor, whatever you want to call him,
Yes.
or Prince Finn Balor, whatever. Like, getting a chance to at least be in the main event again, that gives me hope that at some point, once everything storyline runs its course with Roman, that maybe he gets a chance to hold it again, because he should have never lost it. He only lost it because of injury.
right? That's the whole reason he had to give it up. And yeah, you'd love to see him get it back and see what he can do.
Yeah,
with the
just give
ball.
him one run. You know,
You know,
not asking for, like, you know, a whole year or anything, but at least give him a few months.
So the question keeps just popping up in my head: does Cena beat Reigns as a transitional champion, so that I guess Big E cashes in or somebody else?
That's tough to say, because, I mean, this would be number 16 for John?
No, this would be 17.
This would be the one that puts him over?
It would be the record breaker. And John Cena has said in the past he does not want to break Flair's record.
Understandable, but I mean, if anybody deserves to do it under the WWE banner, it's John Cena.
Right.
I mean, as great as Stone Cold, The Rock, and all those guys are, I mean, to have nothing, like, during that Ruthless Aggression era for a little while, and for him to be able to
Yeah.
break through and cross over when wrestling wasn't as popular.
Right.
That speaks volumes to the testament of John Cena and what he
Yes.
put into the business himself and what he was willing to go through to make himself as big as possible.
That is why it makes my heart sore to hear the reactions he's getting now. He's finally getting the reaction that he has deserved for the last decade.
Oh yeah, the whole
You
Cena
look at-
shows up, we cheer.
Yeah, you look at you just mentioned it. John Cena basically took that company and put it on his shoulders
Yeah.
for a decade. Now, yes, there was at that time there was nothing competing, and God bless TNA, it wasn't competing. There was nothing.
Yeah, because this was like after the SmackDown 6, right?
Yes.
And after
Yeah.
SmackDown 6, you really didn't have much going on in the Ruthless Aggression era.
No, you did not. So he became that face that, like, it was joked about, on I guess it was on Monday Night Raw. He became that face that could go on Today's Show and Tonight's Show and Letterman and Conan O'Brien and all the different shows and tout WWE and pay-per-views and whatever, and he like you said, became the crossover, started doing the movies.
And
just
isn't,
like The
isn't
Rock.
he the most requested Make-A-Wish guy?
I think I saw a stat. He is now up to 600.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's just a good dude at
I
that
mean,
point,
I think the number 2 is not even half that.
Yeah, it's something like he's always like the most requested, and he does it. And he has
Yes.
to be exhausted. He has to do all these other press things when he
Yes.
was running hard,
Right.
And it's just all like, man, that guy really did put in the work to deserve to be the guy that's always remembered as the guy who had the most reigns. And I get like Ric Flair 16. 18, whatever you want to call it, really, right?
Yeah, it depends on who you. Kerry Silken will say it's like 22.
We all know that he's really the true multi-time champion, but
And it was a different era too.
Yeah, but that's just it. It's like we all give him his respect because you had yearly title reigns, that lasted 2 or 3 years during Flair's time. And his
Exactly.
longevity that will never be taken away from him.
Plus, he had to go to John Cena. Yes, he traveled, but under one company.
Yeah,
Flair had to travel to.
country.
He had
after
to go
country.
to countries, different territories. You had to make nice with whoever the boss was, whether it was a Fritz von Erich or the Funks or Joe Blanchard in San Antonio or whoever ran Missouri or Eddie Graham in Florida.
Not to mention the hot shots that you probably had to work where you had to do a 2-1.
Yes.
And then, not only that, but just like.
And look at how many people he put over by making them look good.
Exactly. I mean, maybe that might be my only take back about John Cena's career is that he was pushed so hard that he killed the Nexus, never really built another star off of
There
him.
was, there's
That's
some
the only
booking
complaint I can
things,
make.
But again, I'm not going to blame John on that.
Yeah,
I blame
exactly.
that's the booking.
Yeah, because I mean, like he's willing to do to put somebody over if he has to, because he knows it's good for the business. But if he's not booked that way, he's not booked that way.
Right. And he's a good soldier. He's going to do what he is told. I mean, that's that was the one thing about Stone Cold. When he was asked to put over Brock, he questioned, well, what does this do? I mean, I'm happy to do it, but what's the purpose in it?
Yeah,
If it's just for the sake of putting him over, then no, he didn't want to do it.
and I think he was a little selfish at that point, where he was just like,
Yeah.
how does this help me, the most
Right.
over star?
Right.
Like, and it's just like, no, that would have built up another star for you to face.
You're right.
But it's all hindsight in 2020, and we
yes.
all make mistakes like that.
Absolutely. So
But they left a lot of money on the table there.
they did. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we will go through Monday Night Raw and a couple other notes from WWE. That's coming up next. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
Man, that fan question's hard though, because it's like I want to say it's kids.
Well, and that's the thing. So Mike and I talked about that for a moment, and it's part of it is simple fact. As much as we don't want to admit it, the wrestling audience entirely is shrinking.
It's not just that, but it's also passed us by, like the
Yeah.
new audience, because it's just like they're just a generational difference, and it's all like what might entertain them might not entertain us. And I don't think the WWE television is highbrow or anything like that, but sometimes I feel like, man, it might not be for me. It's just like it's not geared to me.
But see, that's the thing. That's kind of where I wanted to go was, all right, who are they gearing this towards?
And I think they're still trying to figure that out. That's the problem, and that's the only reason I said it that way, because it's just all like they don't. Like, I think that they're trying to get kids because, like, they never really, even though it's not PG, it's not overtly PG-14, or
right.
You know,
It's
like,
not,
they never really crossed the line.
We're not back to the cartoon era.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like we're not far from it either.
Exactly, because you have Nikki Ash running around, and things like that, and it's just like it doesn't seem like we're too far away from that ruthless aggression. Like, they kind of try to get back into that realism, but they didn't go the whole way. So
and
they're
so
kind
they
of like
seem to be leaning a little more towards, again, back to the cartoon characters.
Exactly, and I like I see that. It's like that's like one of my big fears about like Keith Lee is that they're gonna take him. They're going to put him into a cartoon character of some sort and give him a job just to kind of validate the fact that he looks the way he looks,
Mike and I, boy, we had a discussion about that, about booking and everything, and I said, and the name that just it makes my head hurt to watch what they are doing with Keith Lee, a man that has the talent that he has, and you and I have seen it repeatedly, up close and personal. To see what they are doing to him now, and we mentioned the he has tweeted out allegedly he's going to share the story of why he's been gone for the last 7 months.
Yeah, something dealing with medical issues or something.
Well,
like that's what it says.
That was WWE's story. He's going to share his story.
Oh yeah,
allegedly.
Okay.
Now, and I love Keith to death, but I want to see what he says first.
Understandable.
Because it could be...
it could be big, it could be nothing, right?
It could be legit or it could be storyline.
Yeah, we are kind of in the middle of that too, aren't we?
Yeah.
Where they kind of gone back to like, I don't know, somebody gets hurt, I can't tell if it's real, I can't tell if it's fake.
And that's the thing. We know...
And I guess that's good, because that's what wrestling's supposed to be.
Right.
But at the same token, it's like it's different. So
there are times though when it's there for the wrong reasons too. That we're there for the wrong reasons. So I don't know. And like I said, to job out, and we'll talk about it here in the Raw segment.
Can I ask you who's this?
This Hit Row. So this is
okay.
So this is Isaiah Swerve Scott, aka Shane Strickland.
Okay, but this is stable.
His stable.
That's
yes.
Okay, I didn't know he had a whole stable. That's awesome.
Yes, he now has a stable. In fact, he posted pictures on his Twitter and Instagram, him with Rick Rubin.
For real? That's
yes.
awesome. Yeah,
yes.
That's really cool. Man, good to see some guys like that.
I know. I love Shane to death. I treasure the time that I got to share with him. Even if it was just us riding in the car, the 10, 15 minutes it took to go from 800 Congress to the hotel he was staying at, with the stop at his bank, because he always made sure to deposit his money.
He was a smart guy.
He was. I mean, and I knew he
his
told
bank.
me branch. He told me what bank he used. I said, okay, we'll stop here, and we stopped at the same one every time without fail, because it was on the way.
Yeah.
And so it was, but yeah. I was going through, so I'm toying with the idea of buying one of those digital photo frames, because I want to load all of the wrestling photos, all of our wrestler photos and everything. And I've got
might break
at least,
the thing.
I've got at least,
won't load all of them.
Yeah. I got at least 8 or 10 of me and Shane, just cracking up and doing silly stuff.
Is that your favorite drive? Driving him?
It might be.
I hadn't driven too many people around. The last time I drove somebody was Zack Sabre Jr. and Phoenix.
Yeah.
And Phoenix didn't really talk, but Zack was a nice bloke.
Yes. Yeah. I had Penta and Phoenix, and they chatted a little bit, but they kind of kept to themselves, for language reasons. We get it. They did ask if we could stop at a convenience store.
Oh, we got them beer.
Yeah. So they could get, and it was so funny because they walk in without their masks.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, don't make any indication about who they are.
Yeah, like you don't know who these people are. You're just walking with them.
But yeah, I would say next to Jax Dane and Matt Hardy, Shane was probably my favorite.
Now, before we jump back into this, let me ask you, am I the? Because I need to know. Am I the only person that's been super impressed with Baron Corbin and his character work recently?
No, I love it.
Right, it's so good.
I love it. And we didn't put that way. We should touch that.
I know it really does deserve to be
this,
on
This
air.
poor, was that's SmackDown, right?
Yeah, it's SmackDown. SmackDown's been good.
This whole thing of him losing his crown and losing all his money, this has easily been the best version of Baron Corbin.
He's so good.
I mean, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I am so interested in seeing it.
Yes, that's the problem. It's just like I'm invested. It's not like he's supposed to be a loner. He played the loner. He was supposed to be the legit badass that could beat you up. He played that.
Yeah.
He played the king, that comedic role, kind of the in between. He gave you that, and now you see this sorry sack piece of you know what, and he plays it to a T. And I almost feel bad for him. It's so good.
That's the thing. You're not supposed to feel sorry for him, but I do.
But he's so good. Like, I really underrated him. I'm like, dude, you really he really gets the character work of this.
He loves it. And, the brief chat that I had with him at Super Bowl in Miami.
Yeah.
You could tell he loves doing this stuff. He eats it up, and it's one of those things where he just gets it. He's going to do it, and he's going to make it his. And I just can't give him enough credit for that.
This line, like, it just seems so ridiculous.
I
Like,
know,
this can't work. There's no way. But can I?
So
what was it? He has like a Kickstarter type thing.
It was the Corbin Fund
Me, right?
Corbin Fund Me.
Oh, that was brilliant.
And then apparently the web developer has skipped town and
Yes,
took all the money.
Yes, it was so funny.
So the website is like not finished.
Yeah, it's
Oh
so well written though for him. And he uses it so well. He's really been a bright spot on SmackDown.
And again, it's kind of like it's like two universes with them and Raw.
Yeah.
It's absolutely two universes. All right, let's get into Raw so we can.
Wait, I also do want to say though, like I do like Shinsuke as the king, and I'm really loving Pat McAfee kind of putting him over.
Oh my God. I saw a thing on YouTube. So McAfee he'll do these little blogs about his travel, and he was doing it when his first time WWE's in front of fans, and Pat McAfee is having the time of his life, and it has made Michael Cole better.
It's made the whole show better.
It really has,
because you can get the excitement from Cole, which we haven't heard from him in like years, because he's just the company guy. He just does what he's supposed to do, but it seems like he's enjoying his work again.
You can see he's having fun with the energy that he gets from McAfee.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier for McAfee.
And I think that's why that whole show is improved. Like, they've taken every facet that they can, tweaked it enough, and pretty much almost everything hits. Like, I'm interested to see where Dominic Mysterio's, storyline goes.
Yeah.
I love this Baron Corbin thing. I wonder if they'll push Shinsuke a little further past the King of the Ring part, because when you usually become King of the Ring, they usually have something for you planned afterwards.
Right.
Or at least trying to give you a push.
Will they do a King of the Ring tournament? That's another thing, and that's been rumored. So we'll see. All right, let's do this. Go mute. Okay, be right back. Sports guys talking wrestling on the horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. Before we get into Raw, just to kind of put into perspective the difference between Friday night and Monday night. You and I were just talking off air. Baron Corbin.
Awesome. So funny.
That might be just about the best storyline going in WWE right now.
He is so good. He's been able to play every role they've given him.
I mean, God bless me. For all the cussing he got, being the Raw general manager and wearing the stuff to where he looked like he was going to serve appleteenies on Rainy Day.
I forgot about that, yeah.
To do this now, oh my God, it is so much fun to watch, and I want to see where it goes. I'm really interested in seeing
We're invested, and you made the key point is that we're not supposed to care, but we care immensely about this because it's really good.
We're not supposed to feel sorry for him because he's such a
He's a jerk.
human. He's a human piece of.
He was a jerk when he was
Yes.
the GM. He was a jerk when he was the
Yes.
king. He was the jerk when he was
But
the loner.
now I care about him.
Exactly, and we're not supposed to. But this has been one of the best storylines in all of wrestling. All of it.
I would say, yeah, I definitely. I
But
would.
definitely in
Definitely.
WWE,
Oh, God, yes.
top two.
As for, and then to take it down, let's go to Monday night.
Few notches, huh?
We mentioned it earlier. So it seemed like they basically took what happened Friday night between Cena and Reigns, changed Cena to Goldberg, changed Reigns to Lashley, and said, all right, there we go.
I'm wondering if they start doing things like this because they feel that since they have two completely different shows, that they feel that the audience is completely different as well. And they might think like, oh, they haven't seen it because they didn't watch Friday night, so we'll just run it again on a Monday.
That's entirely possible. That is entirely possible.
Because even I feel like the SmackDown crowd might be different than the Raw crowd at this point.
It might be. It might be a little bit. It is still weird. Excuse me, that they decided to basically, it's almost like I think you mentioned it. It's lazy, quite frankly.
Well, not only that, I guess we're still trying to figure out who's the A show, who's the B show now, because
True.
it seems like SmackDown's been the A show for a while, and they're repurposing SmackDown storylines on Raw.
Yes. So, look, we know it's going to be Goldberg and Lashley at SummerSlam. We know that's going. You don't bring Goldberg back just for some. It's going to be them at SummerSlam. I don't think Goldberg takes the title.
I hope not.
I think Lashley keeps it.
Or could you imagine Big E shows up all of a sudden?
That's the thing. So the rumor innuendo is that they want to put Big E on Raw and kind of at least loosely reunite him with Xavier and Kofi.
As they should.
To bring back the New Day, which should never been broke up first place.
No.
But yeah, there is the talk. Bring him back to Raw. Have him cash in on Lashley. Take the world title.
I'm in. I'd rather see that than him
it.
face Goldberg. But I think we understand that match has to take place, and then you see the cash in afterward. That would be my hope.
Yeah, I agree. All right. As for the women's champion, could they have found a way to make Nikki Ash, whatever you want to call her, could they have made her look more weak as a champion? She cashes in.
Mm-hmm.
She's the champion. She comes in, believes in herself. She's got confidence because of the suit and the mask. Charlotte comes in, runs her down. Here comes Rhea. She wants a title shot. They said, okay, triple threat at SummerSlam, Charlotte, Rhea, and Nikki. Fine. That's all right.
Understandable.
Fine. Okay, that makes. And then Charlotte says, but I want you tonight. So they decide, okay, non-title, Charlotte versus Nikki. Main event slot, and basically Charlotte spends 8-9 minutes just, dominating. And they pin her. And pins her clean.
Yeah.
No holding the tights, no distraction. It is for someone that rarely does clean finishes, Charlotte pins Nikki clean.
Can I tell you the only reason I'm okay with this?
Tell me.
The reason I'm okay with this is because she cashed in.
Yeah.
And we don't know how strong of a champion she is because when you cash in, you don't have to be great. You just have to take the most opportunistic time to become champion.
Right. Yeah, we don't know what she will be like as champion, but
so
do we got to job her out the following week?
I know that part's a little harsh, but if you really do break it down storyline wise, and this is, removing that whole apologistic cap, it does kind of make sense. It's like, okay, she hasn't proven herself yet. She won the title, but it was a fluke. We don't know if she's legit yet. Just because you win the title doesn't, people win the Super Bowl doesn't mean that they're great,
Yeah, but the Super Bowl is at the end of a season.
Okay.
That's a difference. This is, you have put your top women's title on a person.
Yeah.
And you basically made it look like it was a mistake.
But it's the same thing as if you go to work and your supervisor, steps out and now you're put in charge because they selected you, and now you're going to have to learn how to deal with some of the stuff the supervisors dealt with that you didn't know about.
Right.
It's going to take a little bit of an adjustment. So her losing cleanly like this, it doesn't derail her any because she never really solidified the fact that she was a great competitor to win the championship. She won
Right.
it by opportunity.
I got that.
That's the only part that makes sense to me.
It's the promos and I almost beat you. They kept using that almost.
Yeah.
And it was like, can we give her something else to at least make her look like she deserved the shot? I mean, I know it's a cash in, but
I know, and they
don't do that with other,
Otis.
cash-ins. Otis never got a chance to cash in.
Yeah.
They took the briefcase away from him.
Yeah, so this is a step above
Well,
that.
that was another disaster.
But this is a step above that because at least they ran with it. And we know because we talked about him earlier. We talked about Mark Cardona. And we remember the moment that he had at WrestleMania where he won the IC belt and we thought it was going to be a big run. And that was it.
They dropped it. Yeah. And I didn't agree with it then. I thought they at least give him a few weeks.
Yeah, so we don't know exactly how this storyline's going to change because it's going to change by the start of next Monday.
Do you have faith in what they will do?
It's going to go, between Rhea and Charlotte and hoping that Becky Lynch comes back at some point and really stirs up the division because that's what everybody wants to see.
Absolutely.
And I don't want Nikki to be the brunt of that, but I'm glad that she's having her moment to shine no matter how they use it because you can't take away the fact that she's become women's champion.
Right. I get that. This and you and I talked about it before the break. Keith Lee.
Yeah.
Now, we've known Keith for several years now. We've seen him up close. I've called matches. You've called some of his matches.
Yeah.
Keith Lee has talent coming out of every pore. He's got the size, and yet he can move like a cruiserweight.
Mm-hmm.
He is incredibly intelligent and can cut some of the most intriguing promos. I mean, what happened? I mean, that's Mike and I were talking about this at the beginning of the show. I mean, I'm stunned. I don't know. You bring him back. First thing you do, put him up against Lashley.
Yeah, have him lose.
And you have him lose.
Which is understandable, world champion.
But then that's where I'm going. Okay, why did you have him come back just to lose to Lashley? Why not bring him back against someone and have him win and establish that?
Yeah, try to build him back up a little bit.
But then the following week, you have him face Karrion Kross, who just lost to Jeff Hardy.
On the most dangerous move possible.
The surprise roll-up.
There you go.
And now, yes, we know. The only reason Keith was in that match, Jeff Hardy has tested positive for COVID. He had to be taken out. So they put Keith in there. Okay, I get that. That was an even worse no-win situation because you can't have Karrion Kross lose again because that's your NXT champion.
And he was humiliated
right.
The night
and
before,
he was,
or the week before.
But at the same time, you're now going to knock Keith down another notch. And I'm just like, I don't get it.
I'm wondering, look, I might be giving them too much credit, but when we see
Probably are. That's okay.
That's cool. But when we see a wrestler going through stuff like this, like Keith, where it's obviously he has the talent, but they're making him kind of try to grind it out and try to prove himself again. Usually they have something in store for them that's going to be great because it's you have to tell this whole story arc where it's oh look, they came from nothing and now they're back to the top, but you have to see it. You can't just hear it because we followed the story and we know, but now you have to play it out in front of this WWE universe on Raw, and you have to play out every little aspect of all of that in front of them. Now, I don't believe that they're going to be intelligent enough to do all that, but that would be my hope. Is that's where they're heading? If
anything, and we said this last week with the loss by Karrion Kross, I think it cements even further what they think of NXT.
But can I say this though, Stu? I'm the reason I'm concerned about Keith is just because he is so amazing at his size, at what he does. I'm afraid that if he did get to display that all the time, it would become mundane. And like I've already talked to you about this, where it's all like, man, we see we see some moves from some of these wrestlers now that used to finish matches, like we talked about at the AEW show, and like they're just transitional moves now, and like the crowd gets excited, but it's not like the big pops that you would expect for such a move. And it's like to see Keith when he flies through the air, because like you said, he moves like a cruiserweight. And if you see that every week, I think you become desensitized to that. So like I don't want him to take that away from his character. But I can see where maybe they try to keep it I know he's limitless, but they might want to limit it.
Right. They try not to give away everything at once. I get that.
Because he's so good that I'm afraid that once you start seeing this big man fly, then you expect every big man to fly when they're not capable of doing it.
Yeah, I get that. It just
because he is
blows
special.
me away. He is, I never will root for anybody to lose a job or whatever, but good Lord, I do fantasize about Keith Lee in AEW or something.
I know that's been that's really popular, obviously,
or
but
send him back to Ring of Honor, have him team up with Shane again.
I wouldn't want to see him. I don't want
Impact.
I don't want to see him team up with anybody, just because like he really should be a single star at this point.
He should.
But I see what you're saying.
But
he also is the type that can persevere through this, because Keith, because he's been in some tough situations before in his life, and if you get to hear him talk, he'll tell you about it if you're nice.
He's and I think that's part of it. Look, he is not only is he an incredible athlete, he is a genuinely good person.
So if anybody can work their way through this, I really feel it's him, because he has all the tools available, both mentally and physically. They just got to give him a chance. But again, I want to know how you feel as a fan. Like, if Keith Lee got to display 100% of his arsenal every night, do you think he would lose any interest?
I don't see that's the thing.
It's like watching Ricochet.
But I think Keith would be smart, and he is smart. I think there's still I still marvel at Ricochet.
I do too.
With what he can do. I don't think there's a way to do it where you can show off everything you can do. Just don't do it every night.
But it goes back to like we just saw this.
It's a style thing. WWE has their style.
True,
I get that.
But we go back and think about what Ricochet did during Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are going to be talking about that in 2 years?
True. I get
when it should be something that you're talking about for at least a decade, because that was an amazing move off of the ladder.
Like him and Ospreay.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about it that way because it was in the middle of a throwaway high spot fuel match.
Real quick, best wishes to Natalya. I think you saw during the match that she and Tamina had.
Yeah.
She got injured. Hopefully it's nothing serious. She's not on the shelf for too long.
I know, but the one thing that really concerns me is that she got carried back, and she would be the type that would walk it back if she could.
Yeah, she got carried back. You're right. And as we talked about first segment, WWE Bloomhouse TV will develop a limited series, The United States of America versus Vince McMahon. How? All right, so I got to get your take. How does Vince McMahon get portrayed at the end of this as he vanquishes the mighty U.S. justice system?
Is this a WWE production?
Yes, with Bloomhouse partners.
Well, definitely more rosy than other productions.
Yeah,
probably would portray.
It'll be a fun piece.
Let me ask you before we go off: do you remember that Monday Night Raw after he was acquitted, and then Macho Man came out and was all like, "And Vince McMahon, the guy who took down the whole U.S. legal justice system." Da 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 da.
It's gonna be. Oh my
so
God.
I'm assuming that they're gonna reshoot that.
It's gonna be telling history through his eyes, like we see with a lot of the WWE stuff. And
I guess my question is, who's going to depict the wrestlers who testified against him? Because didn't Hogan testify against him in that?
He may have. And as Mike and I talked about, I can't wait for Dark Side of the Ring to take on and do the real story. Because they will.
Yeah, definitely.
They will. All right, we got to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll let you know what's happening in independent wrestling around the area. You're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, and you're listening to The Horn.
Although I will say I would be interested to see how they go about it.
God. It'll be, I mean, I'm sure there will be.
Like, where's the revisionist stuff coming?
Yeah, it's like how much of it is factual, how much of it is revisionist. Like Mike talked about when Lynn McMahon tipped off George Zahorian to shred documents and all that good stuff, and there's just like I said, there's going to be a lot of stuff. It's kind of like the thing, the Monday Night Wars things that they did. There's a lot that got untold because WWE wanted to be the mighty victor.
Well, I mean, that's what we see in all world history, though. The victor gets to write the books.
That's right.
And they get to portray themselves however they want. And
that's where it's going to take. It's going to take someone like Evan and Jason from Dark Side of the Ring, or another TV production to come back and tell the real story. Get the court documents. Get talk to, say, Jerry McDevitt. Talk to those that were involved that aren't named McMahon.
Yeah, they're still around. I
mean, the press release mentioned something about, what was it? He was involved in a trial. What was it? Oh, where is it? Let's see. 1994. U.S. government indicted McMahon for allegedly supplying anabolic steroids to WWE talent. McMahon, with his liberty at stake, 2 school-aged children at home, and with WWE on the brink of bankruptcy, refused to take a plea deal. Okay, 2 school-aged children at home. This was 1994.
Mm-hmm. Shane
McMahon was 24 years old.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was, I forget who pointed this out. I think it may have been the guys at Wrestling Inc. or whatever.
Because it's like, I know about wrestling, but there's some people that definitely really dig into this.
I get, okay, if you mean graduate school, okay, sure. Stephanie was 17.
Understandable.
So when you say school-age children, you're usually talking maybe late elementary school, maybe junior high.
You're thinking preteen, usually?
Yeah. I'm not sure I would portray them as school-age children.
Well, we'll see how they get portrayed in the documentary. If they come out and they sit on his lap and they're like 8 and 10, then we know that there's something up.
Oh my!
But I mean, wouldn't the Ultimate Warrior have to be in that? Because he testified, right? And he testified against him.
So they have to find somebody to play Warrior. They'll have to find somebody to play Hogan. They'll have to play, most of that
Roddy
roster.
Piper, right?
Piper, yeah.
Because there was a lot of people that came in that had to talk in front of the grand jury during that time. And there were some guys that were on the roster at that time, too. So I'm like, I'd be really interested to see how they get the actors or who gets represented and who gets left out, things like that.
Yeah. So it should be good for a laugh. I'll give it that. So
before we kick it over, can I ask you a question? Because I saw this online, and I want to pose this to you and to the people out there just in case. Somebody had said that Hangman Page has the same connection to the fans that Stone Cold Steve Austin had at his height. And while I respect that Hangman is really good, my comeback was like, yo, I really feel more of a Magnum TA vibe from Hangman Page than anything else.
Yes, I would agree with you. I mean, could he have the same connection as Stone Cold?
I mean, we heard the guy
possible.
saying Cowboy the whole night when he was out, and he was over.
We've heard it every show.
Yes, but it's still not that rambunctious, like going crazy Stone Cold reaction.
Also have to remember, Heyman's 25, 26.
He's not even 30 yet.
Yeah, he's been in his mid-20s. He is still pretty young.
Yeah.
And yes, he does. You're right. He does give off that Magnum TA vibe.
Okay, so I'm not the only one that sees that.
And Magnum was hugely over.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm like, oh, I mean, Stone Cold, but I mean, Magnum though, totally understandable.
And could he reach Stone Cold? Sure,
possibly, because we don't know how far Magnum would have gone.
Again, AEW. Let's remember, All Elite Wrestling was founded in January of 2019.
Yeah.
So the company is 2.5 years old. They've been on TV for less than 2 years.
But this is kind of what the fans have been waiting for, is for him to be champion, or at least have the chance.
Right, right.
And that was from the very start.
And it's kind, and so of course, my thought as of late has been, okay, make him champion, then what? And look, I have infinitely more faith in Tony Khan than I do Vince McMahon.
Yeah, understand.
Because we have seen what Tony does.
And, I mean, we didn't talk about it anywhere on this show. Maybe you talked about it with Mike. But, I mean, obviously with all the rumors about Bryan Danielson and CM Punk.
We didn't even touch on that. You're right. We did not touch on that.
Well, that's the only reason I didn't bring it up, because I was like, you probably talked about it in the first segment. Didn't want to mention it again.
Actually, we didn't, just because...
Because, I mean, nothing's for sure. It's
right.
just all rumor.
Right
but, like,
now,
we can
it's
discuss
rumor.
this
We
now.
can do it now. We can talk about it right now. So let's and look, I know the guys from bodyslam.net.
Yeah.
And we have seen a little bit. So let's say that, yes, Bryan Danielson and CM Punk are both signed with All Elite Wrestling. And in fact, there is the talk that CM Punk may debut the weekend there in Chicago, leading up to All Out. Why not? He's a Chicago guy.
I'll tell you why. Because if you're going to give Hangman the title, if CM Punk comes back, that overshadows everything.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, actually.
Surprising, right?
Yes. I say, yeah, I would say let's wait.
But then again, that's the perfect time to bring back CM Punk, because it's a home crowd.
Have him come out as Hangman's first challenger. I don't know.
If he won the title and then he came in afterward just to challenge him,
just like Moxley did.
I guess the question is, what? And I get it as a pro wrestler, because I mean, like, I haven't done it in a few years. But if you ask me to go into the ring and go take a few bumps and run the ropes and stuff, like, it's like riding a bike. Like, yeah, I can do it. It's not going to look as great as I did 10 years ago, but there's some things I probably can't do anymore, and there's some things I probably can do now.
Right.
But it's like, CM Punk hasn't been in a wrestling ring to wrestle an actual match in, like, what, 10 years?
Well, as far as we know.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's training and stuff, but it's different when you're in front of the crowd and the timing.
Right. The other rumor is that Bryan Danielson would debut at the AEW show at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. So
right on WWE's home turf, huh?
Right. And, oh, by the way, they have, I think they're up to like 17 or 18,000 tickets sold.
Yeah, and this
which
is all
surpasses what G1 Supercard did at the Garden.
Yes, but this is all rumor still, because it's not for sure.
This is totally rumor.
But it's like, what? It seems like it's 80-20 at this point.
It's leaning like, I'll put it in sports terms. When the news broke last week about Texas and OU to the SEC.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
It's before we've seen the formal request and everything. Yeah, it felt like, okay, it looks like that train is heading down the track.
Yeah, I have to admit, the only people that were like, nah, the SEC wouldn't do that, were the people that were like hardcore from the SEC, like Auburn fans, Alabama fans, A&M fans.
Actually, it was A&M fans, because they don't want Texas.
I know, but I'm saying I have other.
You're right.
I have other friends that are from that graduate from SEC schools, and they were like, "Oh, you just don't know the SEC. Like, it's a collection. Like, they wouldn't bring in these two others to piss off Texas A&M, and because they're bigger than those two schools." I'm like, you're not gonna leave like $7-something billion on the table in revenue rights.
Again, and there was a list that was published last week. Top brands in college football.
I know.
Texas is in the top 3.
Yeah, they were trying to say like, oh, the SEC doesn't need it. I'm like, no, they don't need it. Of course they don't need it, but they would want it if they can get it, and now they can have it.
You get a bigger TV market in Austin.
You get to go back and rearrange the TV deal and negotiate again for much more money. That's like, come on, that's a no-brainer. And like they try to tell me that A&M was going to stop it. I'm like, guys, do you not understand that A&M has no pool? That's coming from somebody that went there. Just to let you know. I'm sure Chad would tell you the same thing.
Yes.
A&M has no pool in this whatsoever.
No.
They what if anything, they went behind A&M's back to discuss this, right?
Yes.
So it's like nobody cares about A&M.
And guess what? A&M's going to get told, no, you vote yes.
Yeah, you vote yes, enjoy it, and guess what? Hopefully you guys are stuck in the same pod so you have to play each other again, right?
Bring back the rivalry.
I'm
So,
with that too, and that's
I'm
because I
with that
went
too.
there, and it's like this.
No, I agree too.
This is the part about being an Aggie that I hate having to admit, because it's just all like, I don't think that way. I think it's dumb, but it's just like, you have some people, and obviously through everything that America's been through, it doesn't surprise me now, is that are really hold strong to their convictions, no matter how much proof you try to show them.
On both sides.
Yes,
on
that's
both
true.
sides. Look, Texas screwed that up as much as anybody, but I have friends in Longhorn Nation that curse at me for even thinking or hoping
that Texas was the bad guy.
that
messed up.
yeah, that Texas and A&M should both just shut up and play.
They should shut up and play.
Yeah,
because this is a disservice to us,
hey,
the fans.
You know who else is going to be thrilled? Arkansas.
Oh hell yeah, Arkansas would be happy.
There is nobody that Razorback fans hate more than the Longhorns.
Yeah, and it's been a long time.
All those years in the Southwest Conference, the game of the century.
Mm-hmm. Is that the '69 championship?
Yes.
Because I'm like, not only that, but you're going to get OU in the deal too.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's big, because that
So
gives you the
now-
whole like Midwest area
Yes.
plus Texas, and then you have all the South. I mean, that's basically more than a fourth of the country right there. It's crazy, and
Yeah?
like just to think like these guys are like, no, we hate Texas that much. That I'm just like, no, you guys
You
don't
have
understand.
no idea.
I'd rather make money, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Jeez.
All right, let's do this last segment. Oh, where's my mouse? There it is. All right, be right back. Sports guys talking wrestling on the horn. Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons.
Man, we got all the good lighters coming out
Dude.
today, huh?
That one, still
That's the one that
that makes my hair, the hair on my neck stand up.
That's the one that pops childhood stew, huh?
Oh, Kevin.
It's just all like,
God bless the Von Erichs. Man, how many times I put my little brother in the iron claw.
I can only imagine.
Oh,
Was that like
man.
your go-to move back in the day?
God, yes.
Because I mean, obviously, I had Hulk Hogan and stuff, but I grew up more with Bret Hart and Stone Cold, so it was like sharpshooters and stunners for everybody at all times.
I was joking with somebody. I said, he puts him in the sharpshooter and says, no, it's a scorpion deathlock.
No, it is a sharpshooter. It always will be.
No.
I know
It's a
the scorpion
scorpion.
deathlock. I get it, but
It's a scorpion.
But Bret's the best there is, the best there was. And
By
best
the
there ever will
way, we didn't mention this. Dynamite last week,
be. Mhm.
the face-off.
Oh,
Orange
yeah.
Cassidy, Sting. Greatest
I
face-off
would have never
ever.
I would have never thought that would happen.
If I could not, as if I couldn't love Sting more, to have him do that with Orange,
Dude, that crowd.
that was like,
that crowd ate it up.
oh, of course they did.
Wow. I was just like, yeah, okay.
You got one of the hottest wrestlers of today with the
icon?
an icon, and the icon is playing along,
Exactly.
complete with the relaxed beat of the chest.
Yeah, he just like, I was like, oh my god, he gets it. That's how you know that
God
you're
bless
good.
Sting.
That's how you know you're a good wrestler, when you
Why
get
they
it.
call him an icon.
That's exactly why he's the
Oh,
icon, man.
Gets me chills even
But
now.
but it's good when you see the old school guys come back and try to work through this new school approach of pro wrestling
yeah.
and get it,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
because it's different now.
It is different. There'll be some old school guys in some of these independent shows we're going to talk about here in a second. Let's start. VIP Wrestling presents It Takes Two Friday at the Haltom Theater in Haltom City. Bell time 8 p.m. This will be a tag team tournament. Tim Storm and Adam Asher reform the Vet Club.
I was like, the vet club's back.
That's right. Chris Dickinson, Homicide from Ring of Honor. Moses and Khan from the Soldiers of Savagery from Shane Taylor Promotions. Plus, you have Moose, Maddie Rinkowski, Fuego del Sol, and more. That's VIP Wrestling this Friday in Haltom City. New Texas Pro Wrestling presents Texas Indie Showcase Saturday at the Premier Arena in Houston. Bell time 7 p.m. There will be matches involving several Texas promotions, including Inspire AD,
Nice.
along with Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance, IHWE, OSW, and more. Brian Keith, Davey Richards will be there. Nyla Rose, Roxy, Izzy James, and more. That's New Texas Pro Wrestling, the Texas Indie Showcase this Saturday in Houston.
The Izzy James who was at AEW?
No, that's as in Isaiah James, formerly known as Unholy Gregory James.
That's the guy, okay.
And the Mission Pro Wrestling has Play Hard, Hustle Harder Saturday at the Southern Star Brewing Company in Conroe. Thunder Rosa will be there. Rosa Negra, Vert Vixen, Alex Gracia, Genocide, and more. That's Mission Pro Wrestling this Saturday in Conroe. And that's a look at independent wrestling around the area. Make sure you get out and support independent wrestling.
Isn't that awesome? The home of Bombshell Blonde is going to be the home of women's pro wrestling.
That's right. I thought Bombshell Blonde was...
no, that's
Southern Star?
That's Southern Star.
Why did I think that was Deep Ellum?
No, it's Southern Star.
Okay.
I recall very vividly because I used to buy that stuff for the old liquor store I used to work at.
Well, now they're going to host Mission Pro Wrestling.
It just makes sense.
Which, they're blowing up. It's so cool to see that.
Very.
I'm so happy for Thunder Rosa.
And congratulations to her for getting signed to AEW.
Now officially with AEW on her birthday, no less.
That's a great gift.
God, bless America.
She worked hard for it, man. We've heard the stories. And
yeah.
You love it to see when it pays off.
And New Texas Pro Wrestling doing this indie showcase. This is fantastic.
But that's what needs to happen.
I mean, again, it's all these great independent promotions, and believe me, I am praying for the day when Inspire AD comes back and does regular shows.
But
you get to see all of them. IHWE.
Yes, to have them back.
David Fuller, who has been working hard to bring IHWE back. So glad to see those initials there.
But this is something that Texas always needed, because when I was wrestling, all the promotions were all about, it was like gangland. They were all about themselves. Nobody wanted to help each other. We started seeing that, but then the pandemic happened and it kind of killed all that momentum that was being built. This is great to see. I hope that they still continue to work together past this, because it makes wrestling better in the state. It gives better chances for the fans and better chances for the workers.
It does. Yeah, you're right. We saw it with Inspire Pro, Sabotage, and Heavy Metal Wrestling.
Yeah, they were working really well together.
It was great to work with those guys, and they do great shows. So, if you have not seen it yet, I am so thrilled. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy second student showcase now available on their YouTube channel. Fantastic! It was so much fun doing that. And huge thanks to Dustin Rhodes. I love him to death. He's to let me come in there and call matches. I got to work with Rebel, who is not Reba. Rebel, who is so lovely. It was so funny. So Rebel was getting tips from Tony Schiavone, which was totally unfair, but I love it anyway. I'll take tips from Schiavone, or Schiavone, as Chris Jericho says.
Schiavone.
And it was just so much fun to do that. By the way, congratulations, The Cure, Lucas Chase, the first Rhodes Wrestling Academy champion. Did you see the belt?
Yes, I did. It's a really nice belt. And congratulations to Lucas. I could tell it meant a lot to him. And I know these guys put it in gals. They put in a lot of hard work to get ready. And it's always hard to perform in front of people, especially on camera, when you know that other people are going to watch it later. Right. And you could be a little nervous. But, I mean, it's a big moment for that young man.
It is.
And I'm hoping that he's going to have to defend the title now. So, hopefully that he steps up his game for whoever his challenger will be in the future.
Well, just to let you know right now, yes. The third camp, I think, starts sometime in August. The showcase, I think, is set for early November. So my guess is Lucas will come and defend the title then. But, yeah, 12-week camp. Everything that these young men and women went through, you have those like Lucas Chase, like Zachariah, the former Zach Taylor, or a.k.a. Zach Taylor, a couple others that had some experience. But for the most part, this class was rookie. I mean, these young men and women, a lot of them never had set foot in a wrestling ring.
Compared to that first class, yes.
Charles Crawford, he just graduated from Hutto High School.
Yeah.
He decided he wanted to be a pro wrestler and signed up for Rhodes Wrestling Academy.
That's how it usually starts.
So anyway, go check it out on YouTube, Rhodes Wrestling Academy. They also have something called Rhodes House that you can subscribe to. I think it's $2.99 a month, and you get to see bonus items, and I think one of them, there is a six-man tag that we taped where it's kind of a fun take on some of the things you see in wrestling. So that's one of the things you get if you subscribe to Rhodes House $2.99 a month
it
through the
sounds-
Rhodes Wrestling Academy YouTube channel.
It sounds so avant-garde. It sounds like art.
Oh no, it's
Right.
just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So, but yeah, go
Hey,
check
man,
it out.
congratulations on getting a chance to work on that. You know,
That's
and I know it's
fantastic.
good for our show, obviously, but I mean, even better for you because it's like I know it's something that, you know, you've always worked to and you always like to do these things. But I mean, for all your work to go into this and get a chance like this, I mean, it really pays off.
I appreciate that, and it's a dream. It's a dream to work with Dustin.
It's
on
a dream
this.
to work with the son of the dream.
Dream to work with the son of the dream. That's right. Absolutely. So that'll do it for this week's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. You can follow Justin the Smash Simmons on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at The Smash Simmons. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. That's STEWMYRICK. You can follow the show on Twitter at SGTWATX. That's also our Twitch channel address. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We live stream on YouTube Tuesday nights. They're on YouTube and Twitch. You can also catch us Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central on the flagship station for the Texas Longhorns, The Horn, 104.9 and 101.9 FM and AM 1260. Or you can catch us anytime on demand by going to hornfm.com and click on the On-Air tab, or by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast provider. Huge thanks to Mike Semperbeebe from Wrestling Observer for joining us. Huge thanks to you for giving us a little bit of your time tonight. For Justin, I'm Stu. We will see you at the matches.
Goodbye and good night. Bang!
And there we go.
Have you had any new followers by any chance on Twitter?
Yes.
Okay, because like last time I did our little thing, and I was like, we had like 290 views, but like I always put out like little things like that.
Oh, nice.
I mean, like, you know, I mean, you actually did it really
Is that
good.
on?
That was last week
What is that on?
on TikTok.
On your TikTok? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, listen to that. Okay.
But
Oh,
see,
that was
like-
from last week. Yeah, me
but
and that.
like,
Yeah,
but like
with
it had like,
three of us.
but I was just asking if it worked because it's like it had like 290 views.
Nice.
I mean, for me, that's good because like I was with Wags and we got like 460 this past Sunday, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, that's good because I don't have any followers on TikTok. These are
Yeah.
just random people that find it and
Right,
watch it. So
Right.
I'm like, I need to keep on putting out more
We've
content.
gotten more followers thanks to. I was able to plug the show on the showcase.
Oh, nice, good
So we had a segment where Rebel and I both plugged our
stuff.
Rebels Happy Hour.
Yep.
Part of ad-free shows, part of the Conrad Thompson podcast thing. She does it on Sundays, so you can check that out. And then I got to plug ours. I had the big logo right there. I put a picture of it, in fact, on the.
Saw Stu with all his belts. I don't blame you.
But it was so yeah, and we gotten some followers off of that, and then I personally have gotten followers through that. Plus some of the other things I've been doing for the station, like today,
You mean all your soccer work?
all the soccer work. Yes,
Yeah.
In fact, I'm talking. I think Friday I'm talking to Mark Turner from Last Word on Soccer.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He's a great guy.
Tell him
and
I say
he's-
hi, the English guy.
Okay, yeah, he usually sits next to me in the press box. But also today from the topping out ceremony at the Moody Center, Vince
I was like, where are those drumsticks
VY.
at?
They're in my little.
Okay. Yeah, I saw
I'll
the
show
photo that you had VY with you.
VY and
I
Chris
was like,
Obanaya.
that's pretty badass.
So two Longhorn greats.
Do they
So,
watch wrestling?
You know, I don't know.
I was
I
gonna
don't think
say-
Vince does. I don't know about Chris.
Man, because I was like, no offense, almost all football players like pro wrestling.
Yeah, I know.
At least
some
one
of them do.
point. I
know
mean,
some
everybody
do.
loves Ric Flair.
Yeah. Yes, they love the Ric Flair stuff. So, but anyway, yeah, a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks to everybody that spreads the word about us.
Are you?
We try to do.
Did I tell you about the story about the guy I played pickup soccer with like 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Wait, you come on the radio like around 9 p.m., right?" And I was like, "I think that's what time we come on. I really don't know anymore because that's like we get
Well, it
switched
depends.
around."
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, because we're coming up on August, so that means end of August we'll be pushed down to 10.
Right, something like that.
Because of
Coaches
IHS
shows
fans.
or IHS fans.
Yeah,
something.
because it'll be time for them.
But I was just all like, that's why I looked at him. I'm like, I think it comes on at that time,
Yeah.
but I don't recall. But he's like, yeah, I was always wondering what you guys look like. I'm like, well, we do have Twitch, but yes, I understand if you're
Yeah.
listening to the radio in the car, you probably are not going to look for us after that because you listen to us on the car.
That's true. That's very true. Which, yeah, don't watch us if you're driving.
But that shows you that we do have listeners that
We do have
catch us on the
listeners.
radio
Yes.
because he was like, oh, I know your
Well,
voice.
and
I was
you
like,
know-
what?
One of the things I've been proud of is the fact that we have quite a few listeners who are in the industry.
That too.
Carrie Silken listens to our podcast every week.
I'm always surprised because I'm like, Carrie, you have such great content. It's like, where do you find the time to listen to us and
He-
talk about
he
all your great
does.
stories?
He likes our show, so love you, Carrie. He's so good.
Man, the next time ROH comes here, we're gonna have to bring him some drink or some
I
flowers or something.
I told you about him calling me.
Yes.
Yes, I love that.
And your chick was here, right?
My chick. Well, this was after she went home.
Okay.
She went home. I'm laying in bed,
You're having to talk with Carrie as you're laying
and Carrie calls, and so we talked for about half an hour.
because I know
about the
that's like an
car.
hour-long conversation
Oh yeah,
right there.
and I'm happy to do it. You
Oh,
know, do it.
with the guy who brought, I mean, think about it. Without Carrie, there's no Seth Rollins.
No.
There's no Cesaro. There's no Samoa Joe. There's no Kevin Owens or Kevin Steen. There's no El Generico, Sami Zayn. You know, he had the eye for all this talent and
He
brought
did.
them in and gave them a proper stage before he sold it off to Sinclair.
Yeah.
So I mean, this guy's a genius when it comes to
Love
to
him.
reading talent and.
But I've had wrestlers tell me, you know, independent scene and others tell me, yeah, I listen.
I'm always
So-
surprised when they do, because it's like, you know, as much as we try to touch on everything, at the end of the day, it's just like, look,
There's a bunch of stuff that we miss.
but at the end of the day, it's like, oh look, when you start doing this, you were kind of like the outsider, and then you became like the ultimate insider because you got good with everybody, and you start understanding how all this worked, and then you start getting to
Well-
work in the industry,
well-
which is so cool.
Part of that is the simple fact that you know,
And you
the
respect the
philosophy
business, too.
That's the thing. From day one, our philosophy's always been we don't do dirt. Now, I will talk about the rumor and innuendo,
Oh, of course, but we're not
Because it
trying to
has-
spread it.
but we're not
We just discuss it if it's out there.
right, and we're not trying to pull dirt. We give respect to the business. We give respect to those that are in the business.
Yeah.
And it's I've never really considered myself in the business. Yes, I get to do commentary,
I don't know. I think you're more in the business than most people are now.
but at the end of the day, I'm still.
It's okay to still be
and
a
I
fan
hate,
at the
hate
end
to
of the
be,
day.
and I hate to say that word, but I'm still a sports reporter. I cover sports.
Well-
That's what stirs the drink for us.
But at the same, but I mean, that's how I see it, though. It's kind of like, look, I did it. I worked with some of these people. You know, when we
Yeah.
first started, you saw that they were just like, "Oh, hey, you're back," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, but I'm not here to wrestle. We're here to cover you." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're here
Yeah.
to talk about you because
Yeah.
we're going to cover this match." It started from there, and we got to the big cards and stuff like that, and that's where all of your talents and stuff came in because it's like you know how to schmooze, you know how to organize, and you know how to do all
the
these
schmoozing
things.
thing. It's been developed over the years, doing Super Bowls and stuff.
But I was like, without you, man, this would have just been a podcast. You know, I don't think I would ever be sitting here going to WrestleMania or going to AEW unless you wanted to do
Well,
this. So I always think it's kind of crazy. It's like, oh man, I got where I wanted to get, but not as a wrestler, but as a person who talked about wrestling.
Well, and we've been lucky enough that, like you mentioned, we've built relationships with the likes of Dustin Rhodes and Mark Henry and Ricky Starks and Keith Lee, where they see us. They don't see us as dirt sheet people. They see us as, you know, people that are genuinely interested in the business, that enjoy the business, that simply want to help spread their word. I found a piece of audio that I had kept. It was one of the times I had Kevin Kelly on from New Japan.
Yeah.
And he had said some wonderfully, some just wonderful words about, he was thanking me for having him on and talking about how I respect, and it made me, and I heard that and I'm going, man, it meant so much to me to have someone like him who I respect so much and I like, and he's genuinely a good person, and I love listening to him on New Japan, and we get the same thing from Ian Riccaboni from Ring of Honor.
Big fan of Ian, man.
Yeah, we
'Cause,
love Ian.
well, especially because like his pathway is very similar to the pathway I'm trying to take, where it's
Yeah.
like, but you know, it's different because he has a family. He had his shoot job, and then
Right.
he finally got blessed with the opportunity to do what he loves to do full time. I'm
Right.
hoping someday that happens to me, but you know, it just comes when it comes. But like, unlike some people where they kind of get bitter about it, it's like
Right.
that and you get that in pro wrestling, but. I was always taught it's like, hey, if you're happy for that guy and you're good with them, you know, and you're not bitter, at some point it'll come back to you as long as you
Yes.
keep on grinding at it. And it's like, you know, people like on AEW, like Dr. Luther, who never really got his chance to show what he could do. I know he's friends with Jericho, but he deserves his opportunity to
He
show a
does.
national audience, and he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
You know, he made me crack up in that last dark match that we saw him at.
Yes.
At AEW. So it's just like, you know, this business can be very cruel, but as long as you're humble and you respect it, at some point I think you'll get what you deserve.
And I think that's the thing. That's why it's not. It's kind of why I was thinking about it the other day, looking through some old pictures, how I've made my way into the back to talk to whoever, because for whatever reason they see me as. I don't want to say one of them, but because I'm not,
but man, you have no fear.
I'm there to support them.
Like, I have like so much fear about that because it's all like, oh, I used to be a worker, but I'm not a worker, so I don't know if I really belong here. But it's like I need to learn how to just be like, yo, I'm just covering this, and I it's like I understand how it works, but it's like but see, the reason it works for you is because like you already have the reporter's mentality. Like, I remember the first time I met you, man. You got me that table over in Temple because they were trying to move us and stuff. And that's how I knew. It was like, oh, man, this guy, he knows we're here to do a job. And it was like, I had respect ever since that day. So it was just all like.
Good Lord, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, man, that was years ago. But that's how I know, because it's like, man, you're not a mark. You're not just a fan. You love the business. You respect it. And it's like you're finally able to kind of take that childhood love and utilize it for your other passion, which is sports.
Yeah.
And finally kind of get what I think you deserve. It's like you're getting these opportunities, and it's like because you put in the hard work.
And I appreciate that. Believe me, it's an interesting line to walk. But yeah, I mean, talking to Miro about the Tennessee Titans, or talking to Mike Sempervive about college football, stuff like that. And I've tried my best to not fanboy out, and
it's hard sometimes.
It is. Well,
when you see Sting, it's like I want to pop.
Okay, yeah, Sting, that's a different one. But like today, like in these days, because I'm older than most of these guys, and girls. So yeah, there's an admiration, but I don't approach them as a quote wrestling fan. I mean, yes, I'm a fan, but I also like to find out what makes them who they are. Like the brief chat I had with Tommy End. And that was just random.
Yeah, like you got so much from him in such a short amount of time, just of who he is as a person, and his thoughts on his character development, which is something that I'm not expecting them to share most of the time. But I'd like to know, because it's like, how'd you want to approach this, and how they make you approach this certain aspects, Well,
see, that's the thing, because what I didn't like flat out. I mentioned the fact that he's got the eye. I said I like that how that has continued.
Yeah, like you're still working
from Alistair, and he volunteered the info about how Malachi is the being that possesses out, all the, and he was explaining it to me.
Brilliant the way he explained it.
And I was like, and it made sense.
Yeah.
And I told him that makes total sense, and it's so good. I said, and I don't know. It wasn't like a wrestling fan talking to a wrestler. It was more like,
you would say like an analyst just talking to like
I was
a worker,
talking to,
right?
Yes, I was talking to someone about the creative the creative cycle, their creative process.
And that's when you see these people are artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird, right? It's so physical, yeah, and like you think about what they wear and stuff, but you're not thinking about like sometimes like how they perceive their character, because it's really small nuances that like that they may be thinking of, and it's like it doesn't always translate, and that's what makes the great wrestlers different from the good ones. Because I mean, all of them are always, if they're good, they're always thinking about how do I connect, what shows them that storyline is carrying on, and it's sometimes they're too subtle. Like they're always there. Sometimes it's too subtle.
I get that. I mean, Will Alday and I, we talked for maybe 20 minutes, but I like Will. Will's a little bit older than a lot of the wrestlers,
but he's been around. Yeah,
he's been around. He's starting to catch on in certain aspects, and in companies, and he's got the look.
He's one of those guys that want him to get at least a cup of coffee somewhere.
Yeah, because he has that look down. I mean, that is, and Will and I, we were just chatting back and forth about different things, and it's, and I think part of the simple fact that I don't want to talk wrestling with them 24/7.
No,
I want to find out about them.
Is it kind of like, you still seeing Pickle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So like, I don't know about you, but it's like, the last girl I was talking to is like, I don't necessarily have to talk about sports when I'm not working. It's like, it's great that the game was on and stuff, but it's like, we don't have to break it down or like analyze that, please.
Right. I mean,
fine.
She watched it just because she knew that's something I'm into. And I said, look, we can turn it off anytime. You let me know. And it was kind of one of those things. She just wanted to figure out, okay, why is it he loves this? And the same thing with sports.
But at the same time,
I think she sees how much I enjoy it, and that's what she likes.
Even when you hate watch it.
She hadn't seen me hate watching.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, let's admit, it's just like real sports. Not everything is worth tuning into. Not every game is a classic. Not every match is much watch TV.
Exactly.
But it is just, man, it's just like when you thought about it, when you said like, oh, when we first started, I was like, wow, that's been a long. That was like half a decade ago at this point.
5.5 years.
Yeah. And I was like,
January 6, 2016.
And to see where a lot of the people that we covered, like where they ended up.
Yeah.
And it's like, we kind of always knew that they would get there. We just didn't know when. And for the ones that are still struggling to get there, it's just like, I still kind of feel that your chance is still possible.
It's just, it's there. You just got to hit the right, a lot of it is timing. A lot of it is luck. Just like, and that's another thing. There's a lot of parallels between the wrestling business and radio and sports radio, because a lot of it is timing. A lot of it is you do a lot of work for little money. You travel a lot, but if you hit that stride, there you go. I mean, you think about when we started, it was WrestleMania 32
in Dallas.
There was no AEW. There wasn't even an inkling.
No.
Cody was still in WWE.
There wasn't even a WWE Women's Championship yet. It was still a Divas Championship at the time.
Right.
It just changed that night.
They changed it that night. It's. I don't know. We should sign off because we're just reminiscing.
I know, but it's good though. We've seen some good ones come and go. We've seen some new people come up and really surprise us, and then we've been able to connect with some
and
older
at the
people.
same time, we've seen some that we thought were good, and we considered friends that unfortunately didn't turn out so well.
It happens though,
man.
Happens. But it's a really good.
The pluses far outweigh the negatives.
But I think that's why I always really related to pro wrestling, even as a fan, because it's like it's a really good microcosm for how life can be sometimes. Because you'll have your ups, you'll have your downs. Some people will make it, some won't. But it's like if you can kind of stick around in the mid card somewhere, you can kind of carve out a nice life.
Yeah.
It's just about trying to get there and trying to keep it there. It's
is.
harder. It's easier said than done. Ask Mark Henry, the ultimate company guy who was able to, I don't know, with all the stuff he was given, sexual chocolate, the hand, and still found a way to get the Hall of Pain over and get his championship.
And now he's an executive with AEW,
as he should be,
and
because he has a
building
great
their community
mind.
relations stuff. So that's couldn't be happier. So,
But
All right.
but before this, before we
Yes.
sign off, you're not going to try to put me into like a tag match between Dustin and Mark Henry for this chair, are you? Because if it's a triple threat,
I told Dustin. He goes. You know, we call him our honorary co-host in the
Yeah.
AEW correspondent. He goes, well, when do I get the chair? I said, well, you got to fight Dustin. You got to fight Justin for it. Okay.
I was like, can we have the match at the Rose Wrestling Academy? Because I mean, I'm down to have the match. I would do.
I said, how about if I just get you a third chair? How about that?
No. Tell him we have to have the match. It would be an
At
honor.
at the RWA.
It'd be an honor to take, I guess, every move that he can possibly give, except for the Shattered Dreams. I hope he doesn't do that no more.
He does not, actually. He does
Because I know
not.
that was a Goldust move,
Yeah.
but I don't think he pulls that out. But I will. Oh man, a back body drop from a guy that's 6'8" would probably really hurt. Though
That power slam he does.
I want to take the power
pretty-
slam because it's
Dude,
picture perfect.
He was trying. He kept every night when we were taping. He goes, "Let me suplex you."
You should let him suplex you.
No,
It won't hurt as bad as you
I'm
think.
50. I am about to be 53 years old.
Finn Balor is 40.
I am okay. Finn Balor is in
Excellent.
infinitely better shape than me.
But we could protect you. He would protect you on the way down.
No.
All you have to do
I
is
think
jump
that-
with him. Don't make him pull you up because he can. But you should just jump
But it'll
with
just
him.
be I said no.
But no, honestly,
I said I'll get Justin. You can suplex him.
honestly, I would. Oh man, but he's a tall dude. That suplex
is.
probably hurts.
Yeah.
But I would take the power slam from him because his power slam is probably one of the most beautiful powers.
It
And I
is.
know it's gonna hurt, but it
It's
would be done
pretty.
perfectly.
So pretty.
I would love to take the power slam from him.
52 years old, and it's hard to think of when he's looked better.
I was like, can we just have the squash match? I was
Just
like, I'll take the squash
crazy.
match.
Crazy.
You're right though, because I saw some stuff when he was doing like his artist formerly known as Goldust gimmick, and I was like, wait, he looks in way better shape now. It's so crazy.
Oh my God, it's nuts. Nuts.
Okay, is
Absolutely
this is the part where it's like, Dustin, you, me, Rose Wrestling Academy.
He said
I
that,
still got
not
the
me.
tights. Don't wear zebra print because I
wear
don't want to
zebra
clash.
print. All right. All right, we're gonna sign off.
You had too
Thanks-
much tequila. Right?
You. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We had a lot of fun. Check it out on the podcast. We'll be back next week, back to 1 hour, and but until then, have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you later. Bye bye.